convert to a religion is so hard. Like what, 2+ years of study in the field?
No, just convert to Reform Judaism. Convert to Reform Judaism. Reform Judaism is the true Judaism. Because
that's hilarious.
Like Orthodox Judaism, it's for the two ones that are too intense about it. The atheists are the ones that have left the faith. The Reform Jews are the ones that have the correct balance of, listen, we're modern, we're intelligent, but also like.
You're triggering Exen.
Yeah, Exen is feeling something.
We prove Samoa's point. Like it undermines his argument completely, because that's exactly what Samoa was actually arguing. That outside of, right, you there's instinct, but then you're going to, you're going to tailor your response according to knowledge outside of instinct, right? But also, if the case that you were still attracted.
So the Reform Jews are in the nice middle.
Atheist Jews are not part of the mix. Atheist Jews have just ethnically inherited whatever the heck it is, you Polish little Caucasians. Like, honestly, unless you're following a particular school of thought, like, what have you inherited? And there's nothing wrong in it, definitely inheriting anything. I'm just saying, like, if you're talking about religion, then it has to be within the frameworks of it. I mean, would you not say?
I'm saying the Reform Jews are in the middle, the golden mean. Like you can't be too irreligious or else you're a copper, and you can't be too religious or else you're a fundy. So you got to be just the perfect medium amount.
Meet me in the middle.
Yeah, ground zero for the reformers of Judaism were in Germany.
No way.
Ground zero for a lot of movements in Judaism were in Germany. It's not like unique to the Reform movement.
I know, but it is a common question raised.
I mean, for your community, right? Shimshon Raphael Hirsch is also ground zero in Germany.
It's true. Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, and some could say that he was too moderate, right? You could go that way.
I mean, he was very influenced by the reformers in some ways. I mean, he was responding to them. He's clearly in conversation with them.
I think that Judaism needed to modernize, but some of the steps, I think, were missteps. But, just based on the survival of the movement throughout history. Not
for sure.
Logical arguments, but, like, how effective was this at responding to the needs at the time? And, to that end, mostly you'd have to say the craziest reformers of all that were most correct were the Zionists.
Yeah, totally. All right, we're going to bore the room with internal Jewish wisdom.
A good thing you did, Caleb, I think, with sharing that article, I'm not going to lie, or the video, I think, with Cynic, was that yesterday, very fearlessly, he stood for his stance in a super conservative Muslim room that found hadith to be infallible, which I think he took the stance that it isn't. And he used very methodical, rational, logical arguments to sort of debunk their stance. And I think this approach, all in all, is helping. Not just him; it would help a lot of these traditionalists who just, blindly follow doctrine and dogma. It's a real breakthrough, I think. I hope the world moves in that direction, to be honest.
What's interesting about him is that he does have a pretty good grasp of history. He understands the evolution of these things in their historical context and the pressures that came to bear, right? So I'm with you, right? The idea that they're not just divine texts, right? He has a sense of history that knows that people write this stuff, right? Plus, the other people haven't really studied systematically.
Yeah, I think it's a systematic study. That's the word.
All right, who's the greatest Jew of all time?
Moses.
I think strong contenders are Moses, Jesus, Einstein. So those are some top contenders.
It would happen.
Are there any women?
Yeah, excuse me.
What?
Are there any women?
The top female Jews of all time?
And like, listen, I'd want to give respect to Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah.
Yeah.
But I'm probably gonna say RBG.
Yeah, she's a good one.
What women? Women in the Abrahamics? Are you kidding me? Women even.
I think Golda Meir is up there.
Yeah, she's good.
Was
Maria?
Wait, was Marie Curie or whatever? Was she Jewish?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, you don't think so?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Marie Curie. I think she was.
There's a couple of women in the Talmud that could be contenders.
Yeah, there were some prophets. Devorah and
Devorah, yeah.
I forget the name of the other one.
Well, aren't they Huldah? There's like 7 women prophets.
She was the other one.
Curie was not Jewish, but she was speculated to be Jewish. Which is funny. They're like, a physicist woman who looks kind of Jewy? You're a Jew. Something that's interesting is Abraham had a third woman. I think it's like Kitover or something like that. Kitover.
Yeah,
She never gets brought up. Why does she never come up? What? Like,
he's the end of the story. She shows up, has 10 kids, exit stage left.
Well, so it's interesting, right? Because the rabbis don't like it when you have characters like that. They have the same question. Where did she go? Who is she? Where did she come from? So Rashi quotes a midrash that says Keturah is actually Hagar, and she returns with a new name, with a sort of a new identity. And like, why is that an interesting commentary? Because it shows that Abraham and Hagar actually did have like a real loving relationship, and so she returns. It's a very interesting midrash. You know that one?
Yeah. I hear it. I mean, like, in terms of why it's there, I mean, for one thing, it seemed important to have the narrative of the purchasing of the burial plot for Sarah. So that would have to mean that Abraham exists after Sarah's death. The marriage of Isaac also happens after Sarah's death, also narratively relevant. So the implication, though, if we know that Abraham lives for another 50 years or whatever, until Esav and Jacob are like 15, the question is, what does he do in the intervening years? There's like a natural question left hanging if you were to just say he exits stage left, especially with no wife in tow. Does he just sit and mourn Sarah? Like, if this is the patriarch, we should know what he's doing with his waning years. So I'm saying the solution of he has a wife and several kids, it leaves the door open for some other tribes that can like enter into gain promise.
That's definitely a part of it, is identifying the other tribes.
Let's also just say maybe there were other tribes, and maybe they did track them for a generation or two from like these 10 guys. But like, whether or not
I think longer than that. I think they did it longer than that. Like, I think parts of the stories about Midian and Moab and all that stuff, it's because they're related to each other.
Right. Like, that was the way they were tracking their history through family lineages. And it seems likely that Abraham did continue and have others, but this particular narrative is addressing the two potential heirs of Abraham, Ishmael and Isaac. And this, the Torah is making the case for Isaac, and it's narratively writing off Ishmael. Whether or not it's Hagar, not necessarily relevant. It's more like Keturah is like a proper identifier as like the third marriage. Right?
Yeah,
Hagar and Sarah was resolved however it was. Keturah was after that when he's Abraham and already has Isaac and dealt with Ishmael, and he lives happily ever after. He's doing what he thinks, the final Jewish version of the ultimate perfect guy is. You just continue reproducing and having happy families.
Yeah, I think that's a good shot. Oh yeah, the Hagar thing is not like explicit.
Yeah, like you can tie it back in for like simplicity's sake, But to me, it's more like an era recognition, right? Hagar was married when Abraham marries Sarah first. Hagar is the second wife taken as a concubine and then promoted to wife, and it gives birth to the first kid. But then he has a kid with Sarah, who was the first wife. That itself is already a court case. Who is the true heir? The firstborn son or the firstborn son of the first married wife? Right? Resolved at the end of that narrative, he continues, but over the course of the narrative, his name changes. That's like the pivotal point where all the conflict happens before the name change. After the name change, it's resolved. Hagar gets sent away for good this time, which is a good argument why it's not her. Keturah, in my estimation, is more the resolution of all of that, right? Isaac gets married off. He does the Akedah. Sarah is dead. He has the burial plot. The entire chapter has ended for all of the conflicts he had open from before his name was changed. The resolution is he goes on living as Abraham, happily with Keturah. That's the end.
I have a question. Why does Saul have such a worse reputation than David and Solomon? Solomon is doing sorcery and has a giant harem. David killed the guy that has sex with a woman. What did Saul do that was worse than that, such that he's like not considered like a great king or whatever?
Refused to kill the king of Amalek, leading to all of the difficulties of the Jews forevermore.
Okay, but that seems okay. Not killing, having too much mercy seems like a less bad thing than killing a guy that's sleeping with his girl.
But the prophets disagree with you.
That's great. I mean, like, I guess if your whole worldview is just listening to God is more important than hurting people, then I can understand why they see it that way. But wasn't God commanding David not to kill people, women? And didn't God command Solomon not to like deal with magical stuff? So like, weren't they also disobeying God?
Let me just highlight that you have to review the David story a little bit more clearly, because it's not so simple that he killed a man to sleep with his wife.
Okay, he put him on the front line, knowing that it would probably kill.
It's far more complicated and nefarious and like an exercise of the problems of power. But Shaul, just in terms of like how much he pissed off the prophets, like, I think Shmuel was the one, and he killed Agag himself. He was so pissed off that Saul didn't do it. He let him loose for a day. He captured him that day, and he kills him himself. The prophet really wanted that guy dead, and the king said no. That was like, at the very least, a separation of powers issue. He just didn't listen to what the prophet told him to do. The prophet did it himself if he had to.
I think Saul gets a bad rap because the people who wrote the story were David fans. It was a political document about what's the word I want? Not legacy. What's the word?
You're saying like it's propaganda?
Dynasty. It's a dynasty.
Yeah.
Right? It's the dynasty story of David. And like, I don't know, I don't think it should be so surprising that like the first guy, after a long period of judges and complaining about kings, he's never going to do well. The first experiment never works. You're always going to, right? Look, the other thing, Sam, is like the way that most of the books of Kings describe if you were a good king, regardless of if you did anything else. You were a good king if you destroyed idol worship. You were a bad king if you did. Regardless of if you expanded territory, were wealthy, like there was peace, none of that mattered if you were a good king, just the idol worship stuff. So even though Sam and David have this like crazy, Sam and David and Solomon have these like, harems and all these kinds of things, right? Murdering husbands. They were committed to getting rid of idol.
Why are like Hezekiah and Josiah also not like talked about as important kings in the same level as David and Solomon?
It's a good question against the documentary hypothesis. But they are given some amount of special weight. there's a good argument that they were the writers or somewhere around that era. That's the claim.
Mostly of Deuteronomy.
So what?
Yeah, mostly Deuteronomy is the claim.
Are you saying something like the writers at the time sort of mythologized Solomon and David because they were in the past and you had rose-colored glasses on, but then Hezekiah and Josiah were contemporary, so it was harder to mythologize them?
A bit different, right? From any era that we're saying that there's like an authorial intent to propagandize a particular political movement, we can look from the present back to see which political movements survived, and we can also see which fights were had at different points, so we can anticipate what arguments are being had and which ones are supported, because it's following through on the history, supporting the victors, right? So David is great because that line continues even after the fall of Israel, makes it a very compelling case. But even in the time of David, there would naturally already be discussions against the mythology of Shaul, which would have supporters as he's the sitting king. So competing mythologies, and what we have is the final version. That's the documentary theory. But the problem is that should be like Josiah and Hezekiah, or whatever his name is, at the end. And they, they're like kind of one-note characters. But it could have just been like that was the era when they did it, so they built it up as much as they could, and then said, and here's your king today. And then they were destroyed.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's a solidifying and centralizing of power based in the historic mythology. That's right. But Josiah almost certainly wrote Deuteronomy, or the prophet, the priest at the time. Almost certainly.
That he writes Deuteronomy specifically.
Why specifically? Because it relies on this one verse that says they never celebrated Passover the same way till they found this secret scroll that they found.
Sure, I know that line.
Right, and so what does that mean? They never celebrated it that way before. Well, if you look at the laws of Passover in Exodus and the laws of Passover in Deuteronomy, they're different. Right? So the theory is that the new way of celebrating Passover was instituted in the time of Josiah and codified.
Yeah, the claim that Passover was instituted then, but why would that mean that the entire book of Deuteronomy was written then?
Well, there's also stuff about all the times it mentions in Deuteronomy you'll do the sacrifices in the place I will tell you, in the place I will put my name. It never says Jerusalem, it never says Beit HaMikdash. Right? So this also is like a kind of, again, it's a reading back. It's a mythologizing of a past history to justify a contemporary politics, which is about centralization of the culture.
So slow down. You're saying that the reason, because the place that will be chosen is used throughout the book of Deuteronomy, that indicates a post-historic rewriting.
Yeah, because one of the things that Josiah does in his reforms is make sure that Jerusalem and the temple become the central worship site.
But hadn't that already occurred?
Yes and no. There were still all kinds of local shrines and altars both to Yahweh and altars to other things, right? But the political, economic reforms of Josiah were a way to centralize in all of that center in Jerusalem.
Right, but what I'm trying to say is the big centralization already occurred when the tabernacle stopped moving and stopped in Jerusalem, no?
I wouldn't call that a centralization, right? Because I don't think politically, economically, cultically, it centered there. I think it became like a significant place, but you also have Shiloh and you have Bethel and you have other Israelite cultic centers that are legitimate.
So you're saying that the true centralization of Jerusalem happens in the time of Josiah, and that the book of Deuteronomy was instrumental in affecting that?
Yeah.
I hear.
Yeah. Right, it's the propaganda piece for justifying that kind of centralization.
And then what about the rest of the stuff that's in there? Why is that? just to fit into the narrative. There's a lot of
the rest of the stuff in Deuteronomy.
Yeah, wouldn't it make more sense if like Deuteronomy was like a later book? Well, I don't know. Like you're saying that it's created whole cloth by Josiah, claimed to be discovered in the temple, in order to centralize worship within Jerusalem. Why would that even be effective? Why would people abandon their Bibles because of a new book that the king says he found with a priest?
Because it's written by Moses.
But no one's ever heard of it.
Right, but it has the authority of Moses behind it.
It seems like it has the authority of the king and maybe a priest behind it.
Yeah, but in the same way that you would write a book, you to give it authority, you write the author of the book is this other ancient mythic figure, right? The same way that the Zohar does that.
Yeah, no, I get that you can gain authority by backdating a book, but that would only work if it was integrated into like Jewish performance, right? Why would they be?
Oh, I see what you mean. Look, I think.
Let's put it a little differently. If all of the Jews alive at the time of Josiah had 4 books of Moses, how the heck did Josiah convince them there was a 5th?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think also, like, because Deuteronomy is so concerned with what happens when you're in the land, right? It's when you get to the land, here's what you'll do.
Listen, all text clues of Deuteronomy being narratively and constructively different from the other 4, that's obvious. It's made as an epilogue book. It's like, this is the speech I said before I died over the 40 days. It's a very simple, closed narrative. And you're right, you could place it into history at any point. The question I have is, when is the adoption of everyone saying 5 books of Moses? Like, they knew about the 4, they knew about Genesis, they had that as an oral tradition, but then Deuteronomy comes out in writing?
Right, so that's, I don't know the answer to that question. But certainly Deuteronomy is relying on some traditions that are much older. That's for sure.
The other thing, it ripped on existing narratives.
Yeah. That's interesting because I'm remembering a passage in the Talmud to your other question about that they say there's actually 7 books of the Torah. No, Joshua is connected, and they say that the little passage of Vayehi b'Soa Aaron between the 2 upside down moons, that is called a Sefer. That's called a Sefer Torah. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't think the idea of Chumash, right, 5 books of Moses came. I don't think that's how we conceived of it for quite a long time. I don't know. It's a very good question. When did the 5 books of Moses became a unit?
These kind of hypotheses, they sort of ignore that cultural moment being lost to history. Like, how exactly do you trick people into 4 books being 5?
Right, and I'm not sure what time period the redactor is at. I have to remember that. I don't know.
Right. You can say it gets cleaned up later, but then you're story building a lot to develop the theory.
Yeah, actually, documentary hypothesis is not the leading theory.
Oh yeah, what's the leading theory now?
Well, there's something called the supplementary hypothesis, which says there were core central texts. Mm-hmm. Most probably like the Holiness Code, which is the Parshat Shoftim. All the stuff that comes, and Kadosh, right? The Covenant Code and the Holiness Code. These are probably some of the oldest, and then the different traditions added on to them from a central core, instead of 4 or 5, 4 disparate authors writing in different schools that were then come together. There really is a central core of Israelite thought in the Torah,
and that it was like updated.
And that it was added to. Supplement, yeah, there we go.
Right. Well, there are definitely like scribal updates. Like, I think Pisum and Ramses, they say, is, or Pharaoh is like anachronistic, I think. Right? That they would from that era, something like that.
Talk about pen and piece more.
never asked anyone how we are. You never asked any fucking issues, no fucking interest in anyone.
Hey, I'm not interested in this conversation anymore, but I just want to come in and let you know that it's so boring. It's not interesting. I just want to reiterate that it's not interesting. Thank you very little.
It was that.
Oh,
In the 1600s, they took a lot of black Indians or Aboriginal, whatever you want to call them, and they shipped them to the east. It's called the triangle slave trade, not the transatlantic.
Right. What tribe do you belong to? All right. So let me just finish this real quick, right? So then I brought up. I said, hey, there's all these societies that have different consenting ages, and the consenting age is exactly what Knowledge was just talking about. In one society, it's good. When in another society, the same age is bad. So then that's the argument that I'm offering as far as there's instinctual things that everybody can agree to, but then culture.
But have you?
Well, here's the thing. So re-diet, I mean, like, so yeah, when you say that people can't, you're saying they can't know that God doesn't exist. I mean, Sully claims to know that God.
Now let me screenshot it. You want to hear that? Okay. Enjoy your flight.
Yo, China and me get thank you, fools. Thank you. That was some very disrespectful shit.
Oh, he gone. You know, I'll be doing all that
Thank
shit.
Like, yeah, like, we having a conversation. You come in with all that loud ass music and shit.
I'm thirsty. This conversation is making me thirsty.
Go get a drink, then, nigga. We all drinking in here. We all smoking and drinking. We having a good time.
I'm smoking.
It's only 11 in the morning.
Yeah, I got some drink.
That's too much noise, honey.
You know, we might be going to with that white noise. All right?
That's a fact.
Stop disrespecting the rum. Stop disrespecting the rum, bro. If you don't want to join the conversation, just go on me. We having an adult conversation.
What you talking about?
There you go. Oh, you get your ass up out of there.
Oh, that room is no longer available. That room is no longer available. Hey everybody, this is Congressman-elect Kitover. This is an article about Darren LaHood that came out today, April 23rd, 2025. Breaking news. Representative Darren LaHood is considering a GOP primary bid for Senator Dick Durbin's seat, opening a clear path to victory for Congressman Kitover-elect. LaHood is considering an open to a primary run for the U.S. Senate seat, according to a source of direct knowledge of the congressman's thinking. The congressman has almost $6 million in cash to run his campaign. Republican donors, party officials, and elected officials are encouraging U.S. Rep. Darren LaHood to run in the Republican primary race to succeed Senator Dick Durbin, and he's interested. LaHood is considering and is open to a primary run for the U.S. Senate seat, according to a source with direct knowledge of the congressman's thinking. Congressman has $6 million in cash on hand to help a potential bid, and he's seen as one of the few Republicans in the state with the ability to raise significant amounts of money. LaHood is getting pushback from both the left and the right. The right is mad at him for his wait-and-see approach to President Trump's tariffs, and the left is upset about his votes on key spending bills. The congressman endorsed Trump in the 2024 primary and is thus far largely supported the president's policies. So, can't actually view anymore because we do not have a subscription to sometimes. But let's see what it says in Google. Darren LaHood, Senate. Let's see what it says. Anything in the news? Dick Durbin steps down. Could Illinois Republicans finally flip the seat? Dick Durbin steps down. Could the Illinois GOP finally flip the seat? Senator Dick Durbin's decision not to run for re-election has local Democrats salivating to take a seat, but don't count out Republicans. Durbin served nearly 30 years in the Senate, the high-ranking national figure. Durbin beat Republican challengers Mark Caron, Jim Oberweis, Steve Saulberg, Jim Durkin, Al Salvi during his Senate tenure. None of those challenges had ever held major office. Yes, but the 2026 landscape will be different. The lack of an incumbent could open the door for a much more competitive race, especially if Republicans find the right candidate. What they're saying, the GOP needs to banish the perennial Dick Uihlein-funded campaign consultants who repeatedly spend millions promoting candidates that have no chance of winning a general election. A former Illinois GOP chair, Pat Brady, tells Axios that would be a good first step. In the last few statewide election cycles, major donors have backed more conservative MAGA candidates who have won GOP primaries but were walloped in the general election. Some intriguing names could include Rep. Mary Miller, Rep. Darren LaHood, and even former Rep. Adam Kinzinger. Senator Durbin's retirement was long overdue, Jake Ford, LaHood's campaign spokesperson, said in a statement. Voters are tired of out-of-touch liberal policies that have failed working families, prioritize illegal immigrants, and far-left ideological agendas over hard-working American taxpayers. By the numbers. The 2024 election netted some positive transaction control. Several collar counties showed better results, but the most recent be noticeable, like many of the rate gains were becoming Trump's at the polls. Illinois is considered a blue state, but it hasn't been that long since Illinois Republicans held a Senate seat. Senator Mark Kirk held office from 2010 to 2016 before losing to now Senator Tammy Duckworth. Duckworth polled almost 55% of the vote in the election. The Democrats are very organized, thanks in part to Pritzker. The challenge for the Democratic Party is finding someone who can balance the needs of the urban, suburban, rural, blah, blah, blah. So stupid. Okay, so it's LaHood versus LaHood over Musk. What is this? Scoop. Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency are pitting father and son Ray LaHood and Darren LaHood, both Republicans, against each other. At issue, Ray LaHood, the former Illinois congressman who served as U.S. Transportation Secretary, signed onto a letter with 59 other former members of Congress urging congressional leaders to exercise constitutional powers to stop any one person from seizing control of government. Even more alarming, the letter continues, is that these operatives have been granted direct access to federal payment system, placing Social Security payments, military salaries, and government disbursements under private influence. On the other side, LaHood, Darren, the current congressman who represents the area around Peoria, declined to comment about the letter, but just last week he praised Donald Trump's policies after hearing the president's address to Congress. Trump and Republican lawmakers are creating opportunities. LaHood said, while there's still work to be done, I'm confident under Trump, the Republicans will continue to deliver a more prosperous, secure future for our nation. A tricky situation. Ray LaHood told Playbook he didn't talk to his son about signing onto the bipartisan letter that is part of a broader initiative to support Article 1 of the Constitution, which spells out the role alleged, also putting the names to the letter of former Senator Carol Mosley Brown, Congressman Cherry Busas, both Illinois Democrats, drawing the line. In their letter, the former members of Congress don't deny the government could use some belt tightening, but they say there's a limit. Wasteful spending and burdensome bureaucracy can and should be addressed, but this is not the way to do it. Congress must not allow their constitutional authority to be usurped. Senator Dick Durbin joined scientists, professors, students, others Friday to protest federal cuts that impact the science community. Okay, so that's Politico. Let's look at this one. Search for the next U.S. attorney. In Chicago and away again in dramatically changed landscape. Brian Fitzpatrick left. Is on hand as Rep. Darren LaHood speaks during the House Select Committee on Intelligence annual open hearing on worldwide threats at the Capitol in Washington on March 9th, 2023. That was Tribune. This is from February 26th of this year. Darren LaHood, a Peoria Republican, announced in a news release Tuesday that he's leading the search for potential nominees to give President Donald Trump his ultimate selection for the plum job would then go through a confirmation process. 2 years without a permanent leader, the search for the next U.S. attorney in Chicago is officially underway. Okay. All right, so that concludes our daily opposition research on Darren LaHood. Go to John Kitover on Instagram. Link is in the YouTube chat. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Vote John in the 16th District. Paging Dr. Beeper. Paging Dr. Beeper. Hey everybody, this is Congressman-elect Kitover. They're in the hood, the vaccinators and cable repair. Cable guy and the cable guy. They're in his.
everybody, this is Congressman-elect Kitover. This is an article about Darren LaHood that came out today, April 23rd, 2025, breaking news. Representative Darren LaHood is considering a GOP primary bid for Senator Dick Durbin's seat, opening a clear path to victory for Congressman Kitover-elect. LaHood is considering an opening.
Oh my God! Listen, I'm watching. I'm literally fucking dying, bro. That is the funniest shit. I've never heard that clip at all. You know what? It is so on brand for him. It is so on brand. But somebody's up there typing like I'm
Because of the boundary line, because it's a hard boundary, a child can't consent, it's never okay. That's not nurture, it's a universal developmental line. So the reason that they're not the same, Nathan's saying that they're the same.
Mentioned that he walked by and had my last name, and he's like, "Yo, I didn't know you had a mansion out here, Liz." So, I mean, it seems like, you know, he's like, again, he's active on IG and stuff like that. So that.
Oh, that's what's up there.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna talk to him on IG.
Good afternoon, Linnell. Who's this? Gang. How you guys all doing?
And it says no, the reason matters. So the simple takeaway is Nathan's analogy is a false analogy because he's comparing two situations that look similar, but the reasons behind them are totally different. And that's why it's a strong man. Does that?
For myself, you may be mutual friends with both of us, and so I can understand you're kind of having, you know, you're in a position of having to kind of be in the middle, so to speak. But I just want to get clear, Glenn, so I understand what your commitments are.
Andrew, is this a full-time job for you? How are you on here 7 days a week talking about this shit? I mean, nonstop. Like, what is your objective? What are you gonna do with your life? This is beyond pathetic. I mean, get out of your Honda Civic and get a job, get a girlfriend, go read the Bible, have a lunch, do something with your life.
I got you. You can be a knucklehead in the audience and a pest down there. Go ahead. Thank you, Coleman. So the commitments that you have, I just want to be clear to make sure we're on the same page, at least where we are at. I'm not saying that we're theologically or politically committed to the same things. But so by my lights, Joel is a racist, okay? He has disdain for white people.
A racist that never killed anybody.
I was talking, have some decorum, remember? So,
I'm not using my time to personally attack you, Andrew. This is the second time you personally attacked me.
Hold on. If you just go to the comments, man, and read in the chat, look what all of the people in this room, a good chunk of them are saying. Just read what they're saying. You tell me that is not racist vitriol.
Wait, we have to discuss that. You didn't do that. Hold on. You didn't do that in that room that we were in talking to you, Andrew. In that room, you had a lot of white people in the comments calling us N-words, saying all kinds. I mean, that's true, though.
You can
hold on. 1 minute.
Andrew, you're the
one mic on me.
Racist comeback.
Hey, bro. I gotta move you to the audience, man. So, one mic on me. Let him say what he's got to say, and then give a response, and then we'll move forward from there. And the same thing when y'all speak, you'll have the floor, and he doesn't have to interrupt or need to interrupt. If y'all want it, then give it. If not, then display it. And that's how this will go. Go ahead.
I appreciate it, Coleman. And listen, I'll mute and I'll let them say all the nonsense that they want to say. I just want to say to you, Coleman, that they're clearly racist, and I don't accept this modern usage of racism. We spent 14 hours. That's correct. Joel is correct. We did that. The way that Joel treated me, I don't know if you heard the dialogue when it happened, but he was absolutely disingenuous. He's not a very clear thinker. So anybody that actually is articulate and understands how reasoning works, logic works, they would be able to pick apart what it is that he did there. And I can do it myself. What he did there was absolutely dishonest throughout the conversation. Various things he did, and I could just point them out. We can go over the audio, right, of it, even though it wasn't a recorded room. There's little birdies, let's say.
There is a recording.
There actually is a recording. You're gonna lose now.
No.
I don't know if it can be played, but
I got it right here.
Did you get that uploaded? You got it uploaded?
What? I can play it right now.
Okay, well, I'll let y'all have that in just a second. Andrew, go ahead and finish saying what you said.
So cool, man. What I want to do is for people that have half a brain and that are reasonable. I want to stop. See, the weird tactic that he just did is I notice what just happened, cool, man. This is just real time. I said there were little birdies, meaning there were other people who recorded it, right? And then I'm saying that there's audio available. And then he does this thing. We have it right here. Oh, now you're cooked. It's just rhetoric. I was the one that was admitting there was audio, and I'm glad there's audio. I want to go over it. And I would like to go over it with you and anybody that is objective to actually note how dishonest this man is in conversation. He said a lie about me after he kicked me down. You gave me mods, cool, man, because we spoke about this. You gave me mods, and he had the gall to kick me down because I said his name 3 times in a row, Joel, instead of Joel. I guarantee you, compared to the stuff that he was saying, that's a minor offense. The stuff that he was saying was, you white people across the board. It's racism. And I don't care. You guys can restructure it however you want and change the terminology and try to use the systemic racism is all that applies. So that's the term we're going to use. And so we don't do interpersonal racism. That's not what's really happening. It's just prejudice. So when we stab somebody because their skin's white, it's just prejudice. We can look up the stats on black on white crime in America. And it absolutely happens. People get killed for the skin color. And the point is to say that that's not racism. It's just to devalue or invalidate what it is that a white person is claiming is going on. It's disgusting. It makes it seem like, oh, well, this is just prejudice. It's just discrimination. It's not racism. We're going to say that really bad word for the systemic stuff. No, it's bad when you stab somebody based on their skin color and kill them. Now, here's the thing, cool, man. Despite what they said, I hadn't used the N-word, okay? I'm not in there using the N-word.
I didn't say you used it.
Hey, stop. If people are using the N-word, I guarantee you that is nothing compared to what is being used by white people broadly. It's nothing. Now, I wasn't supporting that. Listen, hold on. I'm not done. I thought you guys were interrupting. We can go over the audio of that room, too.
We're ready now.
It is not the case that people were just willy-nilly using the N-word. That's not true. It was few and far between if anybody said. I just don't remember anybody saying.
That makes it okay?
No. I didn't say it made it okay.
Hold on, y'all please let him get it all out because it's just going to long the point that he's making.
Yeah. So cool, man. Here's my point, right? You go through the chat, you look at it, right? Now, as far as I understand, you're committed to Christ. There is a gazillion injunctions against this kind of behavior. The lack of decorum, the dishonesty, the attack of people based on their ethnicity, the saying that we are, we're going to be subjected to them. The guy in the chat just said, I'm going to be shining his shoes. You kidding me?
I don't have time for that. I didn't say that, cool, man. Like, I don't want to be responsible for the chat.
I didn't say you said that.
Can he order his thoughts so that he can be concise?
They're ordered. I'm making it sense. You don't tell me how to do this. I know what I'm saying. I'm very articulate and I know what I'm saying.
I can't tell.
I'm telling. Yeah, I know because you're not a very clear thinker yourself.
What's your opinion? Let's go over the audio.
It's not enough.
Please go over the audio.
Hey, come on. And
these guys aren't stopping.
Just please, Andrew, go ahead to your y'all please let him. Please don't interrupt him because I'm already over here feeling some type of way right now anyway. To be honest with you, but go ahead, Andrew.
I appreciate it, cool, man. So all I'm telling you is anybody, and there are multiple people that I know that I think you would think are objective, reasonable thinkers that can actually articulate themselves and actually don't make logical reason errors continually like Joel and other people in part of this group do. That would tell you that it isn't the case that that's what happened, either in the dialogue with him or the room that I held for 14 hours. I was absolutely hoping he would come in where I had some power over him, and I know they love that, right? The white man having power. I would have some power over him where he couldn't kick me down. You made me mod, you made Courtney mod, and he moved us both down. That's a slight against you, as far as I can tell. Now, if you weren't in that, if you didn't hear the whole dialogue, there was dishonesty throughout. I was consistently honest. The points I made were objectively true in my estimation. They weren't like this subjective nonsense that he was trying to do all this rhetorical flourish and trying to linguistic tricks, which he did left and right. It was absolutely disgusting. So what I'm saying to you, cool man, this is my final thing. I want to know what your commitments are. Do you think that white people are garbage? Do you think that white people can't be saved? Do you think that white people are devils? Or do you think that we should be treating each other with love and solidarity regardless of your skin color? And it's the content of your character that we should be examining. Not that, nope, it's okay, Benji. It's okay, everyone else. It's not the way that you look. It's what's in your heart that matters. And the way that I just heard him broad swiping white people and doing all that, I just want to know what your actual commitments are. What do you think, cool man? Not what they think. I already know these guys are racist. I want to know what you think.
Wow. So yes, to answer your question, and y'all all knows this. You know this. My position is not the complexion or color of your skin or none of that. But that doesn't dismiss or cause anyone, and not even myself, to turn a blind eye to the obvious, and I can't stand it, to be honest with you. And I can hear past things, and that's what agitates me. When somebody takes my position or somebody like my position as a weak position to try to speak, and I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm just saying I listen, man, and it bugs me. Kind of like I heard y'all all made mention of Emmett Till yesterday. That story right there, I'm not even gonna lie. After when I don't see how anybody could watch that story and not develop a hate. It's easy to watch that and say screw all the white people. It's easy to do that. And I ain't gonna front to you. After I did get into the Emmett Till story some time back, I see exactly how I felt. So I'm just laying that out on the tape. Matter of fact, I was about to do some things that I never even really thought about doing in regard to that case, because it's very disturbing is an understatement. I really felt like being a bad guy, if you want to look at it like that. Some people say, nah, you wouldn't be being a bad guy if you went out and retaliated on that story. Guess it depends on how you look at it. But that was definitely not a pleasant experience at all. When a lady lied, they took, and this is kind of some of the stuff that was being talked about earlier when the other guy that was here was being, which he's no longer here, I don't see him on the stage, was being questioned about similar scenarios and kind of brushing it off to the side and playing mutual on it. And I just, that Emmett Till story is not, there's nothing, I can't see that as mutual in any way at all. There's no mutual perspective on Emmett Till to me. That's me personally. And then we can go to other folks too, if you want to get technical. There's a ton of history that we could look at. But Andrew, yes, I do feel that way. It's about what's in the heart. I agree 100%. But that doesn't give me the right, nor anybody in their right mind, to ignore the reality of things when it's really apparent. So race is a real thing, and it's a real apparent thing that really happens. So I'm not going to act like, what's in your heart? Forget about actually making comments that are clearly racist comments and acting racist. I'll never patty cake that. That's not funny to me.
Okay, so just to be clear, can black people be racist, Coleman?
The way y'all all explained it from that perspective, it's hard to see it like that, but from the way I've always understood it, I would say yes. But I've never heard it broken down the way y'all all attacked it, to be honest with you. That was new to my ears. I'm accustomed to what's commonly said, and that's common. Blacks are racist, but you know what's interesting? That wasn't common, nor was it
The fucking guy lives on a farm. I can't believe it. So we're gonna do an open secrets video about Darren LaHood here. Let's see. Open Secrets, Darren LaHood. Hi, everybody. This is Congressman-elect Kitover. Follow me on Instagram at John Kitover. That's JOHNKITOVER. This is an opposition research video about Darren LaHood. We're looking at open secrets to see what we can find out. This is the 2024 cycle. He's in the leadership pack for the Abraham Lincoln PAC. Let's see what this is. So this is the funding. In 2022, they had over 500,000. Total raise 784,000, 765,000 spent, 100,000 cash on hand. Location is in Athens, Georgia. It's a Republican leadership PAC, and the treasurer is Paul Kilgore. So whoever Paul Kilgore is, Darren LaHood is connected to him. The full disclosure is almost $1 million. The net worth of LaHood is at about $575,000. He's got a $250,000 liability, it says. And the Illinois Farm Bureau indirect expenditures that target this member, the Illinois Farm Bureau, $10,000. This is Rep LaHood. So if we go in here and we look at the federal congressional candidacy, this is the 2024. He's a member of the Permanent Select on Intelligence as well as the Way and Means Committee. The next election was in 2024. Top industry donors, the insurance industry at $258,000. And then the top contributor was Springfield Armory. He raised $3.7 million and he spent $2.1 million. He has apparently $5.5 million in cash on hand. So that's a lot of money. These are the top contributors: Springfield Armory, Marquee Energy, APAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee, Akin Gump, and BGR Group. Individuals, top industry, insurance sent him $258,000. Securities and investments, $229,000. Lobbyists sent him $209,000. Health professionals, $153,000, and the pharmaceutical industry, $142,000. So total raised versus average raised, and the average raised by House members of the campaign committee. So he's at the higher end of the spectrum of raising funds. Source of funds, PAC contributions. So political action committees from 2023 to 2024 sent him $2.1 million, which was over almost 60% of total contributions. Large individual contributors were the other 22%, apparently, at $840,000. Other was $609,000, and small individual contributions. And the candidate self-financing, absolutely zero. Puts none of his own money in. Note, all the numbers on this page are for the 2023-2024 election cycle based on Federal Election Commission data, released electronically for fundraising totals, source of funds, and total raised versus average. The organizations themselves did not donate. Rather, the money came from the organizations' PACs, their individual members or employees or owners, and the individual's immediate families. So this is open secrets on Darren LaHood. This was the 2024 cycle. We could look at 2022 to see what it says. It's probably going to be very similar. He raised $3.8 million, spent $3 million. At that time, he had $3.9 million on hand. So the Vote to Sonny PAC gave $92,000. Ernst & Young, Breakthrough Beverage, New York Life, and APAC. He's consistently getting APAC. Gets a lot of money from the securities and investment industry and insurance. So really, basically, the major banks. Then lobbyists send him a ton at 184,000, which is probably big pharma and telecom or medical industrial. PAC contributions 2.1 million, large individual contributions at 728,000. So this is Darren LaHood from the 2022 election cycle. Let's see what it says in 2020. I would love to see, I guess I can see the companies. So this was the first elections in 2015. Then the next election was 2020. Insurance industry again at 265,000. Then Ernst & Young, which is an accounting firm which does auditing, raised 3.2 million, spent 1.7 million. At that time, 3 million cash on hand. Ernst & Young at 26,000. Council of Insurance Agents and Brokers at 20,000. National Association of Broadcasters, so CBS, NBC, which is essentially Disney and Comcast. Exelon sent him 15,000 and Raytheon sent him 14,000. So again, this is who Darren LaHood is in the 16th district and where all his money comes from. This is Open Secrets, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Kitover. I am running for Congress in the 16th district against Darren LaHood. You can follow me on Instagram at John Kitover. Again, this is Darren LaHood. This was the 2018 cycle or year. He raised 2.4 million. At that point, he spent 1.2 million and had 1.5 million cash in hand. Top contributors: Exelon Corporation, Ernst & Young, Marquee Energy, McDonald's Corporation, and Knapheide Manufacturing. Top industries, again, insurance, health professionals, securities, investments, and lobbyists. He's big into insurance. So that's MetLife, as well as other large insurers that do a lot of business with the federal government. PAC contributions, 1.4 million. So political action committees are the biggest donor to Darren LaHood at 58%, and large individual contributions, 33%. That was 2018. And we can look at total career. Raised $15 million, which is incredible. And he has spent 10.3 million, cash on hand, 5.5 million. These are the top contributors from 2015 to 2024. Marquee Energy, Ernst & Young, Blue Cross Blue Shield, so that's who the insurance provider is. Exelon at 83,000, Caterpillar at 82,000. Top industries: insurance, securities and investments, health professionals, lobbyists, 670,000. So insurance, you can see here, the total is 1 million. Individuals, 139,000, but the PACs gave 945,000. So the insurance really is Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, Cigna. These are the big contributors to Darren LaHood. So Darren LaHood is really if anything, he's a big insurance lobbyist. So this is who he is, Darren LaHood. Do not vote for Darren. It said today in the news that he's going to be running for Senator Dick Durbin's seat. So that leaves open the Republican candidacy. I am the first individual to file. Let's look at personal finances for Darren LaHood. So we'll go to 2018. Ranked 247th in the House, estimated net worth of 341,000, which is very low. I mean, it's got to be much higher than that, or he keeps it in his wife's name, because with $5 million cash on hand, he's got to have millions of dollars personally. Estimated net worth, again, this is 2018. This is 7 years ago. He's probably a multi-millionaire at this point. Sectors invested in 2018. Okay, so this is kind of like a dead page here. It doesn't really give much information. Let's see. I don't know what report says. 2018 let's see this yearly report 2018. Oh, so this is interesting. So this is the financial disclosure report of the Honorable Darren McKay LaHood. At this time, it looks like it was Illinois District 18. And so this is his NH moderate growth portfolio, 50,000 tax deferred, Fidelity. So he invests with Fidelity, BOA, Thornburg Investment Income. What else is there? Spouse salary, Notre Dame High School of Peoria. She makes $2,700 a month. Owner creditor Associated Bank. Mortgage of about $250,000. the Ripon Society, and the Franklin Center for Global Policy, Chicago, Paris, Washington, D.C. scheduled travel payments and reimbursements. The Ripon Society and the Franklin Center for Global Policy. Interesting. Schedule A and B class details, college savings plan, IRA for Darren LaHood, IRA for Kristen LaHood. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Nice little find there. So this is the financial disclosure report for Darren LaHood. This is the 2017 CFE checking account, the Franklin Mutual Global Discovery Fund. Anything else? Let's see. So the National Committee on U.S.-China Relations, Schedule Travel Payment and Heritage Foundation, American Israel Education Foundation, and the American Task Force for Lebanon. Interesting. So that's this travel payments and reimbursement section, which is Schedule H of the financial disclosure report. Let's see what else is there. This is the 2016 for Ethics Committee use only. Financial disclosure extension request form. This is the 2015. More bank accounts, all tax deferred. He's invested with Goldman Sachs, Artisan International. So you can see it's really widely dispersed. Growth Fund of America, IRA for Kristen, IRA for Darren, General Electric Corporation. Scheduled position, state senator, board of directors member, Central Illinois chapter, American Red Cross. Okay, not much there. This is, did we just do the 2015? Okay, let's see. This is the 2014 college savings plan, 50,000 tax deferred, all capital income builders fund. Got a lot of mutual funds. Really, Income Corporation, Schedule C earned income, Miller and Howe Triggs, amount preceding year. So from his law firm, he only pulled in 30,000 that year. The preceding year was 65,000, and then the salary for a state senator was 62,000. And yeah, that's about it. Okay, so this is open secrets for Darren LaHood. If other people know how to find out more data on Darren LaHood, please let me know. This is John Kitover. Add me on Instagram. I'll put the link to my Instagram in the video. Again, this is Darren LaHood, Opposition Research. It's Thursday, April 24th, 2025. Vote John Kitover for 16th District Congress in the state of Illinois. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everybody. everybody. This is Congressman. Hi, everybody. This is Congressman-elect Kitover. Follow me on Instagram at John Kitover. That's JOHNKITOVER. This is an opposition research. Hi, everybody. This is Congressman-elect Kitover. Follow me on Instagram at John Kitover. That's JOHNKITOVER. This is an opposition research video about Darren LaHood. We're looking. Hi everybody, this is Congressman-elect Kitover. Follow me on Instagram at John Kitover. That's John Kitover. This is an opposition research video about Darren LaHood. We're looking at open secrets to see what we can find out. This is the 2024 cycle. He's in the leadership pack for the Abraham Lincoln PAC. Let's see what this is. So this is the funding. In 2022, they had over 500,000. Total raised 784,000, 765,000 spent, 100,000.
Sunday, get their kids in the school, get them to have a good job.
Video about Darren LaHood. We're looking at a Hi everybody, this is Congressman-elect Kitover. Follow me on Instagram at John Kitover.
$40 trillion in debt. $40 trillion debt, $100 billion a month in interest payments, tariffs, MAGA.
Hi everybody, this is Congressman.
Darren is a big farmer, big health insurance, and high-speed internet fraud. Republicans' most primary will hit if he doesn't run for Senate. Illinois Republican voters must end crooked will hit and MEGA. Vote John Kitover, get it right, Republican Central Illinois.
You know that.
what is right or wrong. And the reality is, very few people in pop. Are you weird? You remember the bunny with.
Check out.
If tomorrow. Hi, everybody. This is Congressman-elect Kitover. Follow me on Instagram at John Kitover. That's JOHNKITOVER. This is an opposition research video about Darren LaHood. We're looking at open secrets to see what. It's going to be somebody else's different statement. They won't think the same. So maybe you should do that more often.
That's my argument. No one gives a fuck if you're lighter skin, dark skin, but to put words, oh, I'm white. Fuck. Well, so if there's not so many light skinned people that have culture and ethnicity.
Space just to say that, though?
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't create your own room and say.
It's because the camera loved Davis.
Calling out the race baiting
Lens
from
flips it.
both sides.
You weren't gonna have the audience.
Get out of here, bro.
I want to ask Red Rum.
This ain't the room. This ain't the room. I'm sorry. You don't have to stay up for me.
This isn't.
You don't have to stay up for me.
Who the